I would disagree, actually. I think, while I admit Fulham and West Brom are probably better suited, Bournemouth have the squad.
Is he the right man for Nottingham Forest?
I'm not sure if Steve Cooper is the right man, because I thought Chris Hughton would be the right man. Chris Hughton's one of the best managers the Championship has ever seen, and could get a tune out of this Forest side.
He's got this Derby side playing some really good football, probably some of the best football I've seen as a Derby fan since Steve McLaren was in charge.
He's showing now, considering the tools that he has available to him, that he is actually capable of managing at this level, Justin.
There are no tools available to him, are there? He's managing with absolutely nothing.
He struggled last time he was in the Championship. Of course, second half of the season, Hull were garbage. Quite frankly, it was a dumpster fire of a second half of the season.
But I'm not worried about West Brom at all. They've created a host of chances in these games that they've drawn.
I feel like Valérien Ismaël's tactics could do with a little tweaking. Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Stopwatch, a show where we'll discuss 5 Championship topics, each with a 2-minute timer. We're Ryan and Justin from the Second Tier Podcast, and let's get right into it. What's your reaction to Steve Cooper's appointment at Forest, Justin? Do you think he's the right manager to be a success at the club?
I think my initial reaction is excitement. I think he's a very good coach, a very good young coach with a big pedigree, let's say, and he achieved quite a lot at Swansea, I think, in a short space of time. Only 2 years at the club, two playoff finishes. Is he the right man for Nottingham Forest? It's a good question. I thought Chris Hughton was the right man, but Steve Cooper has got something on his side that Chris Hughton doesn't, which is a good pedigree of working with young players, which Forest have a lot of now. They've got a different philosophy of recruitment. So yeah, I think Steve Cooper is the right man, but it just remains to be seen whether or not he will be a success at Forest.
There have been quite a few managers now who've come through the door at Forest, haven't they? And everyone thought they were going to be the right man to finally achieve some sort of success with this Forest side, which has been in the Championship longer than any other side. I'm not sure if Steve Cooper is the right man, because I thought Chris Hughton would be the right man. Chris Hughton's one of the best managers the Championship has ever seen, and could get a tune out of this Forest side. Can Steve Cooper? He overachieved at Swansea last season. This Forest side, arguably better than that Swansea side, give or take a couple of players. So yes, Steve Cooper, I think, off what we saw last season, is probably a Premier League manager. It's just there's a lot of things going on at Forest, isn't there, behind the scenes that are making things a bit tricky. Yes,
there has been for a while, hasn't there? I don't think this Forest side is better than that Swansea side. I think that Swansea side are better individuals, whereas this Forest side has a little bit more depth. But what Steve Cooper has at Forest now is a number 9, which he didn't have at Swansea. He's got 2 number 9s actually. So I think he can deliver with a pair of strikers that he didn't have at Swansea, and I think he is the right man in the long term. But it's just whether or not he gets the long term.
Yeah, worth pointing out, Forest have sacked a manager every calendar year since 2010. And there have been a lot of good managers at that time. So who could say whether it's going to be exactly the same case this time next year? Justin, next question, please.
Given the circumstances, how good of a job is Wayne Rooney doing at Derby County?
An incredible job. He really is. Whether it's, paying for the staff and their away accommodation to away days, or actually doing a decent job on the pitch, he is really showing himself to be a top bloke and a good manager. And he's showing himself that after last season, where he was a bit stop-starty in how good he actually was, he made quite a few managerial mistakes. He's showing now, considering the tools that he has available to him, that he is actually capable of managing at this level, Justin.
There are no tools available to him, are there? He's managing with absolutely nothing. And yeah, I think Wayne Rooney's doing a top job. If you take everything out of the equation, or the hoo-ha around the upstairs of Derby at the moment, and just focus on the playing side of things, he's got this Derby side playing some really good football, probably some of the best football I've seen as a Derby fan since Steve McLaren was in charge. And that's quite a big statement. And although the results haven't quite lent to that, yeah, playing side of it, I think he's done incredible. And off the field, I think he's done even better.
Yeah, 14 senior players at the start of the season. If you said to any Derby fan, you'd be, minus the points deduction, mid-table at this point in the season, you'd have gone, wow. Wayne Rooney, yeah, hats off to him. He is doing an incredible job. He's playing young players as well, giving them their chance off the bench. And I don't think anyone can underestimate how good a job he's doing. Last season, I would have said, yeah, I'm not sure he's good enough to manage at this level. This season, complete turnaround. I don't think any Derby fan will disagree with us on that, doing a sensational job at Pride Park, despite everything that's going on. Justin, have Bournemouth been overlooked in the title race? And do you think they're capable of rivaling those other teams under Scott Parker?
I don't think Bournemouth have been overlooked in the title race. I think they will finish in and around the top 4. I don't think they are good enough as title contenders for the whole season. But I think they are capable of rivaling the top 2 under Scott Parker. I think he'll run them quite close, but I just think they'll fall a little bit short. For example, they've only got 2 strikers in Jamal and Dominic Solanke, so I think that might be an issue as the season goes on.
I would disagree, actually. I think, while I admit Fulham and West Brom are probably better suited, Bournemouth have the squad. They had the squad last season. It's just they didn't have a good manager. And now they've actually got that manager in Scott Parker. And they've got a good young side mixed with experience as well. Gary Cahill's come in, has been absolutely fantastic. And then that midfield of, Pearson, Cook, Lerma, Billing. It's just chock full of talent. And the squad is, as thick as any. I just think those other 2 teams have got more in the locker. But Bournemouth, I see no reason why they can't challenge those 2.
I think they will challenge, and I'm not trying to discredit Bournemouth in any way. I think they've been brilliant so far this season, but I just think the other teams have a lot more depth, which is why I think they will finish in and around the top 4. Whether they finish 4th or 3rd is another question, but they have the quality. It's just whether or not they can keep the likes of Solanke fit for the whole season, David Brooks, for example. So, yeah, it's touch and go, but I just don't think they've got enough for a title race.
They've certainly got the next best chance after Fulham and West Brom, haven't they? I don't think anyone can dispute that at this moment in time, considering especially Sheffield United's start to the season. Justin, next question, please.
Are you worried for Hull City? They've only scored 1 goal in their last 7, and they've got a tough trip to Stoke City this weekend.
I am very worried about Hull City. They are looking incredibly blunt up top, and I think that is mainly down to the tactics of Grant McCann. He struggled last time he was in the Championship. Of course, second half of the season, Hull were garbage. Quite frankly, it was a dumpster fire of a second half of the season, and now he's come back into the Championship this season, despite getting them promoted last year, and they're struggling again. And I think that is mainly down to the tactics. Constantly playing Josh McGuinness up front, who is just proving time and time again that he doesn't look capable of playing at this level. It's a stubbornness, really. And something has got to change at Hull fast. Otherwise, they could sink without a trace.
Yeah, it's quite interesting that I don't think Grant McCann has learned from that disastrous second half of the season that saw them relegated to League One in the first place, because the same issues are cropping up. The lack of goals and leaky defence, for example. But I'm not that worried about Hull City, because I think they're essentially 1 or 2 places left for relegation. Obviously, Reading have had a points deduction, so have Derby, and I think Hull have got enough quality to see themselves out of it. I just think they need to survive this season and build on it, because they've got some good young players there. So I'm not too worried at the moment. Although if this goalless run continues, then yes, the concerns start to rise.
Yeah, that's the thing with the points deduction, isn't it? It's kind of taking up places. Yeah. So Derby, I think, are pretty much, they're nailed on to finish in one of those places. Reading, I could see getting out of it. But nonetheless, there's still going to be at least 1 place left. And Hull at the moment are looking really, really poor. And Grant McCann needs to change things massively. They've got the players. Malik Wilkes, Keane Lewis Potter, very good players at this level. It's just Grant McCann's tactics are letting them down. And finally, Justin, are West Brom at risk of falling off after their strong start? They've had 3 draws in a row. They've got QPR up next, and fans are beginning to ask questions. What do you think they need to do?
It's easy for me to say because I'm not a West Brom fan, but I'm not worried about West Brom at all. They've created a host of chances in these games that they've drawn, and they should have won them had it not been for some poor finishing. So as long as they keep creating chances, they will stay in and around that top 2. 3 draws is not a bad thing. They're showing that they're hard to beat. So let's take a positive spin here. They're a hard side to beat. They're a hard side to break down. And as long as they keep creating chances, as I say, the goals will come.
Yeah, they're one of only 2 teams still unbeaten in the Championship so far this season. So they're still very solid at the back. It's just finishing off those chances, which has been a bit of an issue in recent times. I feel like Valérien Ismaël's tactics could do with a little tweaking as well. When you're playing that style of play where, he's constantly launching the ball into the box and making things happen with Barnsley, that's acceptable. But when you've got a West Brom side with more talented players, you need to be flexible, especially if it's not working.
I hear what you're saying, but I feel like because we're still quite early on in the season, still quite early on in Valérien Ismaël's reign, it's going to take time to implement different variations of his tactics. So I think that once we get to sort of November, December time, I think we'll start to see a bit more of a plan A/B, where it's still plan A, it's still launching it, but there are subtle differences, like getting Alex Mount on the ball a little bit more in the middle of the park when teams are camped in their own area. So yeah, I think they need to be improvements, but I'm not worried about them at all.
There are certain individuals who I think are underperforming for the Albion at the moment, and he may have to change things around a bit to, get those results back on track. But I don't think there's anything to worry about so far. As you say, they are still creating chances. It's just that clinical finishing at the other end of the pitch, which really needs to be sorted out. And then they'll just prove again that they are a very talented side at this level. And that wraps it up for today's episode of The Stopwatch. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Drop us a like if you've enjoyed, and please subscribe for more content like this. Within the Second Tier Podcast, you can find us on Twitter at Second Tier Pod, and also on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Thank you for watching.